my speech was 13 pages, but I made it big enough so I could read without my reading glasses. So it shouldn't be that long. But it's wonderful to see such a big crowd this morning. Part of me's been wondering about how many of you came just to make sure I was actually leaving. I wasn't going to change my mind or anything like that. I know Casey said in the program states that I'm going to do a State of the Agency address. I'll briefly do that. But while I have the stage, I'll take this opportunity to tell you how I got here, why I stayed, and why now is the time to turn the page on the next chapter for me and for Goodwill. As far as the agency goes, Jonathan stated Goodwill Industries of Wayne and Holmes County is in a very good financial position, which has allowed us to begin our industrial services expansion, adding a little over 11,000 square feet to our Knoll Avenue facility. This project will be completed in late summer, early fall, and I know Brett Kerr, Vice President of Operations, and his team are anxious to have the additional space to take on work for industrial service partners. As Jonathan stated, the Worcester Brush Company, Schaeffler, and Speed North. At this time, I would like to recognize the Worcester Brush team, as they have partnered with us since the very beginning and have been an integral part of the success. And I can't begin to count the many lives they have helped transform over the years. With us today, we have Mike Zimmerman, Vice President of Engineering, and you can either congratulate him or question him, because Mike was on the executive committee in 2003 when they took a chance on a much younger version of me. Instead of showing you a much younger version of me, to put it in perspective, my son Reed was 8 and my son Grant was 9. And today, Reed joins me with his lovely wife, Elizabeth. And there's supposed to be pictures. So there's little Reed on the side with his glasses. And then Grant and Reed. And then Grant is in the golf cart. He is a police officer in Pittsburgh, so he couldn't be here this morning. And that's actually at one of our golf outings. And then his wife, Becca, and my grandson, Finnegan. So I digress. I would also like to recognize past board members from Worcester Brush, Chuck Besessi, present board member Brad Hartzler, and Tim Fleming, who's the Worcester Brush buyer who approves all of our work, and John Scott, who is in production development. Thank you for always being wonderful partners. I would also like to recognize all the past and present board members. Please stand so that we may show your appreciation for your service. Present and past board members. I would also like to give a special thanks to Christy Van Sickle, our current executive committee, as well as the members of the board who took on the task of finding Goodwill's next leader. I'm sure it wasn't what they bargained for when they joined the board, but thank you all for all your hard work during this transitional time. I would also like to thank all of my colleagues, both in the community and within Goodwill. It has been my honor and privilege to embark on this journey with you. Now let's transition into how I got here and why I stayed. Many people know I come from a very large family. If you didn't, I'm the youngest of 16 kids. My father was sick from the time I was little, and my mother never worked outside the home or learned to drive. My father passed away when I was only 12 years old, and all of my siblings were living on their own, which left my mom and me. My brothers and sisters would help my mother from time to time financially, but the majority of the time we survived on my father's Social Security benefits. My family received food stamps, subsidized housing, and my first pair of glasses came from Ron Pycraft through the Lions Club. As a child, I used many of the services at Department of Job and Family Services and United Way Fund. Life comes full circle, as Ron's son, Chris Pycraft, served as the chair of Goodwill board in 2012. I knew we didn't have much money, but I don't think I realized the magnitude of our poverty until I began working at Goodwill. At age 16, I began working in a department store that some of you will remember as the William Ann Company. It was located where E&H Hardware is now. I would walk down from the high school when it was located where Cornerstone now is, and I would catch the last city bus of the day to our metro apartment behind Greenleaf, where my 62-year-old mother and I lived. I learned very early about the power of work, as it allowed me to buy new clothes instead of having only hand-me-downs from people at church. Sometimes I wonder how I made it out of poverty. One wrong decision could have led me down a totally different path. I believe what kept me on the right path was being brought up in a strong Christian family with an unconditional love of my mother, who shared her strong faith with me. She gave me the confidence that with God's help, I could do anything I wanted to do. A secondary education was something that was not emphasized in our household. Many of my siblings did not graduate from high school and went on to work as soon as possible. I didn't realize I was considered low income and made friends with kids from all economic groups, which I believe exposed me to a different life and a knowledge that I wanted more. In 7th grade, I was elected as the student council treasurer and then became the president of my sophomore class. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to college because that is what all my friends were doing. I was going to be the first one in my family to graduate from college. I'm not sharing this story for you to feel sorry for me. As I look back, I wouldn't change a thing because I believe it's made me appreciate what I have and given me the passion for the people Goodwill serves. I was lucky enough to be one of those people who just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Little did I know 39 years ago when I worked at that upscale department store that I was participating in my first networking experience. I remember talking to a female executive from a local bank, and she asked me what I planned to do after high school. When I told her I planned on looking for a full-time job and that I'd be attending the local community college in the evening, she suggested that I apply at that bank when I turned 18, which I did. I began working there in the summer of 1985 and attended college in the fall. As my career progressed with the bank, I put my education on hold. Even though I decided to discontinue college after 1 year, it didn't stop me from wanting to learn, so I took every training opportunity that was given to me, including Leadership Worcester, which I was in the inaugural class in, I can't remember now, 1996 and 97. Ultimately allowing me to make the connection, which led me to my next job at the Vice President of Administration for Goodwill Industries, and that was 27 years ago. Although I had a good job, I dreamed of finishing my degree, so in 2013, as my son Reed left for college, I enrolled at Walsh University and earned my Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Management in December of 2015. As I continued in my career, one thing that began to stand out to me is the fact that a lot of community members didn't fully understand Goodwill or its social enterprise model that we have been using since 1979. We often use the old age story of giving a hungry man a fish versus teaching them to fish. We've been in the business of teaching people to fish for over 45 years, and that is why my passion continued to burn for Goodwill 27 years later. We need to continue to work together as a community to address the root causes of poverty and be realistic in the training and support systems people need to be successful. This brings me to the part about why I stayed. Although my background and expertise are in the operations and financial side of our organization, I felt it was my responsibility to make us fiscally strong so that we were in a position to do the wonderful work that you will see featured in our upcoming videos. We do not do this very important work alone. If it wasn't for the wonderful partnerships and funding we receive from the Department of Job and Family Services, through the Wayne County Commissioners, OOD, and United Way, we wouldn't be able to do this work. I want to personally thank Rich Owens. I'm getting all the names messed up today. Richard Owens, for his support and guidance over the years. He also has an amazing team that we are honored to work with, some who were able to be here today. So if you'll please join me in congratulating Rich, Bob, Sarah, April, Lori, and Danielle. I would also like to recognize and acknowledge the Wayne County Commissioners that are in attendance today. We have Sue Smale and Jonathan Hofstetter. Thank you for always taking Rich's recommendations and funding the many worthwhile programs we will be featuring soon. And since I've messed up his name this morning, I want to highlight that we also have Mayor Reynolds with us this morning. As I made a big deal of patting him on his back and telling him how glad I was to see Bob Brenneman here. So I'm sorry about that, Bob. I'd also like to recognize United Way. Katie Kogelman could not be here this morning, but Kaylee is here. I wanted to thank you guys for your dedication to fundraising and educating the community on the needs of the most vulnerable and allowing us to be able to serve the individuals that sometimes fall through the cracks. So we were able to do that with that United Way funding. And lastly, I want to thank the donors that have contributed financially or with your household clothing items for our stores. Just as I've highlighted a few of those other partners today, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize a few of our special donors. Thank you to the Commercial Savings Bank for being the commercial sponsor of our golf outing for the last 20 years. We have several employees from CSB with us today. We want to thank you for your support. I'm sure Ashley will be giving a plug just a little bit later about the golf outing. The Noble Foundation, which has supported us in so many ways over the years, and a special thank you to Don Noble for serving on the board for 2 stints of 6 years. I'd also like to thank Scott Plants from Metals Dynamics, who after his tenure on the board still asks me for our wish list each December, and has purchased numerous needed items for us over the years. Some of those include a forklift, electric pallet jacks, vehicles, retail transportation carts, and most recently he supplied the funding to replace our dock doors and leveler at the Knoll facility. I'm really surprised, and Scott's sitting way over here in the corner, that he even picks up my calls anymore, because there's several last minute calls like, we don't have a sponsor for lunch, or we don't have a sponsor for the beverage carts. And Scott has stepped up each year and always come through for us. Thank you, Scott. And finally, why it's time to turn the page. I stated earlier that I've spent most of my career laying the foundation and ensuring that we're in a financial position so that the next leader, who you will meet in just a few minutes, would be able to take this Goodwill to the next level. Don has been described as a strategic leader, so I'm honored to lead the organization in a position that Don and the team will be able to think big and take the organization to places I never dreamed would be possible. Early in my career, I witnessed some CEOs from other Goodwills that said, I'm going to die in this seat. And I remember hearing their staff say, I wish he'd retire, he won't let us do anything new. I took that to heart and vowed to never be one of those CEOs, and to always be aware and know when it was time to turn the page. I'm looking forward to stepping back and watching Dawn and the team take Goodwill to the next level, and I know they will do amazing things in our community. I want to thank the awesome team that I've had the privilege of working with. I will miss you, so please stand so I can show my appreciation one last time. Goodwill. Although I will miss you, not enough to stay, but I am excited to spend more time with my husband, Bob, who's here with me this morning, who has supported every harebrained volunteer opportunity I've signed him up for. I'm also glad to relinquish the title of CEO and embrace the title of Grandma. Thank you to my husband, my son Reed, and his beautiful wife Elizabeth for joining me today. Thank you, and I now ask Casey McGrady, Vice President of Development Marketing, to come to stage to present the awards.
Actually, before the awards, may I introduce and welcome Goodwill's new President and CEO, Don Cazzolli.
Breeze right by that. Thanks to everybody. And I have a whole speech prepared here, but as I was sitting listening to Judy, I hope you all realize the enormous shoes that I have to fill. And can I just give Judy and another little story. When I first met Judy, she said to me, "I hope you're up for this job." And lazy, I am also a dive-in head first, and sometimes been described as building the airplane as we fly it. So everybody, here we go. But I am super excited and very blessed, and I do know exactly the shoes that I have to fill. I've had the privilege of hanging out with Judy for the past 3 weeks. I've come to know her as kind, compassionate, and an absolute caregiver. She recognizes the need in people and connects with that. And so I'm hoping that I can have that, at least a portion of the impact on people's lives that you have. Thank you. I also hope that you completely enjoy your retirement. It's very well deserved. And so, I just want to say that I embrace the vision of Goodwill in uplifting lives. And I'm very excited to join this team of passionate, amazing people that I've met over the course of the past 3 weeks. And I hope that together we can uphold that Goodwill philosophy of a hand up, not a hand out. So, thank you. And here's to the next chapter.